Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro podcast, the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name is Jerry. I'm your host. We're going to talk today about the things that chiropractors take on themselves to make their life harder than it has to be, essentially carrying burdens that are not yours to carry. I heard someone say one, I don't even remember who I was listening to, but I wrote it down as soon as I heard it because I knew that this was going to end up being a podcast episode. And the statement was, don't own things that are not yours to own. And there's so many times that I'll talk to chiropractors, and I made this mistake when I was in practice, and I'm sure I make this mistake now within my own life and within my own business. Holy smokes, I just had trouble with my words. I know I make this mistake too, so I'm not acting like I'm beyond it or I've transcended it or anything like that. I still have problems, guys. I don't know if you know this or not. My poop stinks. I have problems. I have struggles. I feel very inadequate to give you guys advice a lot of the times because I'm very aware of my own flaws. With that being said, one of the things that I did very early in practice, and some of these things I wrote down, like I have 7 different things I'm going to give you as examples, and these are not going to be the only things, but these are things I think that chiropractors commonly take on themselves and carry these responsibilities kind of mentally and emotionally. And it ends up negatively affecting your own well-being, your practice, and sometimes even your personal life. I made some of these mistakes, and that's why when that statement was said, it resonated with me personally from my past experience. It also resonated with me from the fact that I've had these conversations with chiropractors a lot. So we're going to get into this, and hopefully you'll just hear these things and it'll have some of you will have like an aha moment of, oh, wait a second. I can just release that. I can worry about what I'm supposed to worry about. I can stop worrying about what is not mine to worry about, and ultimately continue to grow and head in the direction I'm supposed to without making life harder than it has to be. So that's sort of the point for the day. I will say this, a couple things. I did want to talk to you guys about something from a podcast standpoint. This is episode, I think 455. So I've done a lot of these podcasts for Rocket Chiro and what used to be Black Sheep DC. And most of them, I'm just talking to you guys and I'm just kind of sharing thoughts and sharing advice and things of that nature. I do have people that come on for interviews or conversations. I wouldn't really necessarily even call them interviews, but I don't do them terribly often. But I have been thinking about recently if there are some different ways or different opportunities for doing maybe a different style or different type of podcast episode, not necessarily changing the entire format of the podcast, but maybe adding in some more diversity. Now that could be just bringing in more people and having more guests. The two things that I think are easiest for me to comprehend and say, oh, I could probably do that more is one, bring in more people and more guests. And number 2 would just be to set up some sort of mailbag situation and answer questions from you guys, listeners, and maybe even have an entire episode, maybe once a month or once every now and then, where I'm just answering questions that chiropractors have. I have put it on Instagram before. I've put questions on Instagram before and used those for episodes. So I feel like that's sort of a similar idea. But I guess what I'm doing is I'm just asking you guys who listen to my podcast all the time, if you have any suggestions, for the type of things that maybe you've heard other podcasts people do that you're like, oh, hey, this might work really well for Jerry and for the Rocket Chiro. I'm open to suggestions. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I am open to suggestions though. And I just thought I would reach out to the regular listeners of the podcast and just say, if you have something that you would suggest that you think might be a good fit for the show or something like that, let me know. Also, if you have a suggestion for someone I should talk to, I'm open to that as well. I will say this, I get contacted usually multiple times a week from third-party people that are trying to get their guy onto my podcast. I usually just ignore it, and I'm not really interested in those type of situations. So if you're someone who is employed to get people on podcasts, I'm not talking to you. Like, that's not what I'm saying right now. If this happens to be the one podcast that you're listening to, before you reach out to me and act like you listen to all my podcasts, because I know that's what people do, because I get the same kind of generic emails all the time. It's like, I love your show, especially, and then they mention one show that was recent that they listened to recently. I can't tell you how much that just annoys me. But if that is you and you are employed to get somebody else on podcast, don't reach out to me. please, I'm not going to respond to you. If you happen to be a chiropractor who listens to my show all the time and you think there is somebody that you know that might be a good guest or somebody you've heard on another podcast, you're like, hey, it would be interesting for you to talk to this person. I am open to suggestions. I will say this, if I only hear the name one time, it's probably not going to move the needle for me. And so, but I am open to hearing suggestions. And the reason for that is this, is that when someone suggests like, hey, you should talk to this person, he's an author, or this person, he's a financial person, or this person, he's a whatever, or she's a whatever. If I don't know who that person is, I'm not interested in I'm not kind of organically interested in them. All that you're doing as a third party person is inviting me to do 2 or 3 hours of extra work that week to figure out who this person is so that I can have an actual conversation with them and not sound like a total noob and doofus that has no idea what I'm talking about. I do actually have to have something prepped to bring somebody on the podcast. And if I have no idea who these people are, or I have no interest in like learning more about them, you're just inviting me to do more work, which is you're not doing me any favors. So I said all that to say, those of you who are regular listeners, if you have some suggestions, if you think the mailbag idea is a good idea, I'm definitely open to do that. If you think that specific people might be interesting or having more guests, or if you just think I'm killing it and I just need to keep doing what I'm doing, that's fine too. And I'm also open to you guys just asking me whatever. I thought about that too, within like the mailbag context. If you wanted to ask me whatever, why the Buffalo Bills are the best football team ever, or what I hate most about my kids, or whatever. I don't know. Which kid's the best? They're not all the same. All right. Anyway, let's get to the podcast. Let's get to the content here. So don't own things that are not yours to own. So I think one of the biggest way that this was kind of on my shoulders as a chiropractor personally, and the one that I can speak to the most, is this idea of making decisions for patients. It actually took me a really long time to free myself of the burden of trying to make decisions for patients. And that could be financial decisions, that could be health decisions. It's oftentimes patients aren't going to make the decision that you would want them to make. And it's important as a chiropractor to understand you are a leader within the context of your practice, and you are the one that's driving the ship. But it's your job to explain to a patient how you can help them, the context in which you can help them. And even if you come up with some sort of modified version of that, if you give your best recommendations and someone's like, I can't do that because they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they don't, whatever. Like there are real reasons why someone couldn't follow through with your care. If that's the case and you come up with some alternative, you're still leading the ship on that. You still have to be the leader. You still have to decide whether that's okay or not. And so you're definitely in a leadership role. But no matter how much of a leader you are within the context of your practice, it isn't your job and it's not your responsibility to make decisions for patients. And when you get so weighted down by someone not making the decision that you want them to make, or the decision that you would make, that's really the wrong way of going about it. And when I was really early in practice, it was so weighty for me to, and maybe it's because you just don't have enough, clients, you don't have enough money coming in, you don't have enough, whatever. Maybe that's part of it, but that's really transferred over now to even what I do with Rocket Chiro. When I talk to people about their website or their SEO or whatever, if they don't choose me, I don't really have a whole lot of, like, it doesn't really hit me personally. I'm interested in helping someone come up with a good solution to their problem. I'm interested in being, I want it to be a really good relationship both ways, that, I get paid, they're happy with what the products and the services that I'm providing for them. That's what I want. And if for some reason there's a disconnect, I'm not going to get upset with them with going a different direction if they decide that's what they're going to do. And so I just don't carry that burden. I do think it's my responsibility to explain what I do in a way that makes sense. I do think it's my responsibility to be able to communicate to people how I can help them and the problems that I solve, and that I am the best solution if I am in fact the best solution. But at the end of the line, the end of the day, they're making their own decision. These are adults. It's okay if they make a different decision than you would make. I'm not gonna lose sleep over that. So don't carry the burden of making decisions for your patients. They're going to make different decisions than you do at times. Number 2 is don't make the mistake of micromanaging your staff. Your staff is supposed to be there to help. Now, I know a lot of you don't have staff. You're just doing a micro practice, but this is true for people that are helping you as well. So if you're paying someone to do your website, or you're paying someone to help you with online marketing, paying someone to do your social media, whatever, what you should have when you have people that are helping you out, you're paying them to help you out, which is what staff is. The idea is that you should train them. You should trust them. You should hold them accountable. I mean, there is an accountability. You don't just blindly trust people. You want to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing, or what they're supposed to be doing. I would also say that it's a good idea to empower them, for your staff that's working for you, letting them know, like, hey, here's how we do things. Here, I'm gonna train you really, really well, so you're really equipped to do this job exceptionally well. Here's how you do it. If you come up with a better idea, let me know. We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll try it. If I think it's a bad idea, we won't do it. But giving them the opportunity to innovate because they're on the front lines with that particular job, those are all very important things in terms of managing staff. But I can tell you this, you want to suffocate staff, you want to lose good people, micromanage them. Because if you train them and trust them, hold them accountable. But if you're looking over their shoulder all the time, no one likes that. No one likes that. Unless you're just the most insecure worker bee in the entire world, you do not like someone standing over your shoulder trying to make sure that you don't mess up. It's for no one's benefit. So if you're a chiropractor who is struggling with micromanaging your staff, stop it. Train them, trust them, empower them, hold them accountable, but don't carry the burden of making sure that they're doing every little thing right all the time. Because if you have to do that, you haven't trained them well, or they're not trustworthy. Either way, not good. Number 3, here's a good one. Another burden you're not supposed to carry, making your patient's emergency your emergency. Guess what, guys? Other people's emergency is not your emergency. And when you make it that way, it stresses you out and it makes life harder than it has to be. You're going to have people that wait until the absolute last minute to make a decision. And then they get mad at you because you don't completely bend every single thing that you're doing to accommodate them. That is not how this works. You set the parameters for your job. You set the parameters for your practice. You set your hours. You set your services. You set your fees, all of those things. Someone else, their emergency is not your emergency. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot bend the rules sometimes or that you can't be accommodating to people at times. But a lot of times what happens is the people that expect that of you, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's actually their bad decision, their bad planning, their bad whatever, their narcissistic personality or whatever that is contributing to the fact that they're in that situation to begin with. And you're just enabling them by bending your rules or breaking your rules and doing the thing you're supposed to do. I made a meme recently kind of joking about, the last patient of the day. When you find out the last patient of the day is running late. Now, when I made that meme, I was actually thinking that the last person of the day was going to allow you to go home early. That's actually in my brain how that worked, where I was like, sweet, I'm going to get a leave early. And then you find out, oh, they're running late. God, I'm going to have to stick around here. I didn't really think about the last patient of the day before the practice closes at its normal time. I wasn't really thinking that when I made the meme. And then I had some people comment that they're basically like, hey, our office closes at 6. If you can't make it, reschedule. And I agree with that. Now, obviously, you can bend the rules if you want to. If this is the best patient you've ever had, they've never done this before, whatever, and you want to stick around for someone and bend the rules for them, that's fine. I'm not saying that you can't do that. But if it's the person who's always late to all their appointments all the time and half the time they don't show up, you are just enabling them. And new patients do this too. Like their emergency. I have to get in now. All right, well then go to somebody else. Go to the joint. They're open. So don't make your patient's emergency your emergency. You can be nice, but don't be a doormat. All right, number 4 is trying to get, what did I write down? I can't read my own handwriting. Trying to get everyone to understand chiropractic. This is kind of a silly thing that chiropractors do. And I think it's more with traditional chiropractors than like your evidence-based chiropractors. But even evidence-based chiropractors go into way too much information, trying to get people to understand what they're doing, how they're doing. I think there's a underlying insecurity that happens within chiropractic, and we're trying to explain things and make ourselves more legitimate. I think that's just unnecessary. I think what you should do is you should be finding out what this person's problem is. You should be finding out if they're a good fit. Like if you can you solve their problem, and then explain what you do within the context of solving their problem, and nothing more, nothing less. That's all they need to know. This is how it helps you achieve your goal. They don't need to know the in-depths about the anatomy. They don't need to know about chiropractic philosophy and history. They don't need to know what you know. They're not chiropractors. They're not any of that stuff. So just expecting everyone to understand chiropractic and not ask dumb questions is really stressful. It's a stressful way to live your practice. And I'll tell you, it's no picnic for your patients either. Like the patients don't like being bombarded and waterboarded with dumb, unnecessary information because you want them to be as informed as you are. They don't want to be as informed as you are. And if you try to make it that way, you're making your life harder than it has to be. Number 5, trying to convert everyone to a patient. This is also super stressful, by the way. Not everybody's going to be your patient, and it's okay. When you go to a health fair, not everybody's going to be your patient. When you go do a talk, not everybody's going to be your patient. When you go to part of a BNI or a chamber group, not everybody is going to be your patient. It's okay. When you go out networking, not everybody's going to be your patient. Like, calm down. Why in the world do you think everybody you meet is going to be your patient or should be your patient? A lot of those people are bad fit. They're bad fit because they're broke. They're a bad fit because they're annoying. They're a bad fit because you can't actually help them with any of the particular problems that they're dealing with or concerned about. Some people are just bad fits. They just are. And I know when I first got into practice, this plagued me when I first got into practice because I was around a bunch of people that believed that everybody should go to the chiropractor. And if you understood what I understood about chiropractic, then you would choose chiropractic. Like, that's so dumb. It's so dumb and not true. And on top of it is that if I went to meetings and I completely destroyed opportunities that I had because I was trying to convert the people in the room into patients instead of understanding the real value of the room. You know, BNI is a really good example of this. It's like if BNI is really a meeting place, and if you guys don't know what BNI is, it's just a local networking group. It's an exclusive networking group. And I don't mean exclusive like it's a big deal to be in a BNI. I mean exclusive like if there's one chiropractor, there's only one chiropractor. If there's a physical therapist, there's only a physical therapist. You don't have 7 chiropractors in the group like you might in a chamber, like a chamber of commerce. And so in BNI, you go into BNI, the whole purpose of BNI is to give business to each other. It's a referral group. And if that's the case, the group is not there to be buyers from everybody else in the group. That's not the point of the group. Now, are there people that are going to be buyers of other people in the group? Yes, absolutely. It makes sense for you to use people in your BNI group. But everyone is not there to just be a customer of everybody else. That is not the point of the group. The point of the group is to refer. And so if you go into a BNI and you're thinking, I'm going to convert everybody into a patient that's here, and that's your primary goal, instead of looking at a BNI and saying, these are my referral partners. These are people that are going to go out into the community and refer other people to me. So I need to do a really good job of explaining this is who I'm looking for. You know, being very specific. And there's a whole conversation around that about being specific, being clear, and how do you get people to refer, and how do you communicate what you do to people within a networking group in a way that they actually will refer? Because what should happen is you should be clear enough about what you do that they're very clear when they leave who they should refer. It's like referring to a realtor. Like, it's easy to refer to a realtor because, you know, if you meet someone who's selling a house, hey, I know a realtor. If you meet someone who's buying a house, hey, I know a realtor. It's easy. Chiropractors don't make it that easy. We often really, really complicate things. And it's sort of it's a combination of trying to explain what we know to everybody, like trying to over-explain chiropractic, which is what we talked about before, and this idea that everybody in this room should be a patient of mine. They shouldn't. Stop thinking that. And when you go to, I've talked to chiropractors before, like it was like these coaching things and marketing things and all this stuff that you go to when you're trying to figure out how to grow your practice, and the stuff that they, sell to chiropractors. And hang on, I got to make sure my computer just did something weird. And so you hear these people that are like, oh, I went to this talk and there were 12 people in the talk and I signed up 18 because all 12 people in the room, and there were 6 other people that they signed up their spouses to. Shut up. That's absolute bull crap. Like, that is absolute bull crap. And maybe that happened somewhere at some time in some place. That's not normal. And I would argue that if all 12 people that were there signed up to become a new patient, and then 6 of the other people signed up their spouses along with it, and then you ended up with like 18 people instead of 12, you probably lied to them. That's all I'm saying. You probably, some sort of scare tactic or some sort of bribe or some sort of whatever. That's not normal human nature unless you're giving stuff away. I suppose if you're giving away like concert tickets or a new car or something like that, yeah, everybody signs up and they all sign up their family. That's how people react to free stuff, not chiropractic. And not even free chiropractic. I'm just talking about free, actual cool stuff that they want, not free visits to the chiropractor, because people don't even respond that way to free visits to the chiropractor. So if you think everyone's going to be your patient, stop it. You're making your life harder than it has to be. All right. Last 2 things. Expecting everyone to refer and leave reviews doesn't happen. It's important that you have systems in place to make reviews normal. It's important you have systems in place to make referrals normal. It's important that you make those things easy for people. It's important that you're asking and being consistent about it. All those things are important. If you expect 100% of your people to refer or 100% of your people to leave online reviews, you are ridiculously stressing yourself out over something that's unnecessary. And this is also true for patients. Like if you have a follow-up, this wasn't on the list here, but this also applies. I was talking to a chiropractor recently, and he was saying that he was reaching out to people, just doing a follow-up, like, hey, just hadn't seen you in a while, just thought I'd check in, whatever, which is great. I think it's really great to have some sort of touching base follow-up that you do with your patients. If you expect all those people to call you back or all those people to come in and schedule an appointment, you're making your life harder than it has to be. I'm not saying that we should just all lower the bar and just be happy with like garbage. I am saying that if your bar is in a realm that is not reality, it's not even optimistic, it's ridiculous, then we need to bring it down to some level of expectation that's appropriate. Because if you have expectations way up here, like super high, and then you have reality, which is somewhere, even if reality is great, but it's somewhere like below your expectations, the space between expectations and reality is just disappointment. This is true for relationships. This is why people get upset that people have such a hard time with marriage. And listen, I'm no marriage expert, but I do know this is that when I got married in my 20s, when I was first married, my expectations were ridiculous. I had no idea what it meant to be married and what it was actually really like. And like, there's no possible way that any relationship could have lived up to my expectations because they were wrong. And so bringing the expectations down to like, what does it actually mean to be married and to live with someone and to do life together? And what does that actually mean? You're not disappointed with, even when something's great, you're not disappointed with it because your expectations are through the roof. And so if you expect all of your patients to refer, all of your patients to leave reviews, and it's going to be 80, 90, 100%, that's ridiculous. It's probably going to be like 20%, 30%. Let's even put it at 50%, which is not going to happen, but let's say you do. You can't expect everyone to do these things. They're not going to. You want to put systems in place and be consistent so that you're getting 100% of the people that are going to do it, which is probably going to be much, much lower than 100% of all of your patients. But if you think that it's going to be different, you're carrying a burden you don't need to be carrying. Last thing is I'm going to say is the 7th one is expecting people to be happy with care, expecting everyone to be happy with care. Now, here's the cool thing about chiropractic. Even crappy chiropractic gets good results. And generally speaking, people are happy with their chiropractic experience. You don't have to be the greatest chiropractor in the world, and most people are going to be happy with your care. I would even argue that there is a massive difference between the percentage of people that are happy with their chiropractor versus the percentage of people that are happy with their physical therapist or their medical doctor or their surgeon or whatever. There are people that it's such a great profession because it really does generate incredible results with an incredible wide variety of people. It's not 100%. You're going to have people who are unhappy with your care. They don't like your personality. They don't like how you dress. They don't like the way the office smells. They don't like how you adjust them because it hurts or it's too soft. It's too hard. It's too fast. It's too slow. There's just going to be a percentage of people that are not happy with care. And that's fine. Now, here's the thing. The flip side of that, because there's always a flip side to all of this. The flip side of that is if you consistently have people complaining about care, you need to really be honest with yourself and not look at it and say, some will, some won't. So what? Next, please. Like, that's not the mentality that I'm encouraging here. That's not what I'm saying. But there are some really great chiropractors out there that just absolutely trash themselves mentally when someone's not happy with care or someone doesn't get the results that they want. They'll have 85, 95% of people that are getting really great results and happy with their care, and they obsess about that tiny percentage of people that it doesn't work out. I would say you're spoiled. And I don't mean spoiled like you're a brat. I'm just saying that you're spoiled as a chiropractor because you're so used to people getting great results and doing well that it's skewed your perspective to think that everyone is going to be that way, and that's not the case. Now, I said there are, I look at, when I do these practice assessments, I look at chiropractors' websites and their SEO. I look at their Google business profiles and reviews and stuff like that. And I had a guy get a hold of me a while back, and this doesn't happen very often. It happens occasionally. He got a hold of me and he was interested in doing the reputation management and having me help him get more reviews. And so I was looking really closely at his reviews. I was reading over some stuff, and he had a higher percentage of negative reviews than what I would normally see with a chiropractor. I mean, most chiropractors, if their review number is below 4.5 or 4.6, like that's really unusual. I mean, there are some negative reviews and they'll knock your number down from a 5.0, which is fine. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay. Like, it really is okay. But you know, when you see someone that's like 4.3, 4.2, 3.9, like you start seeing like that kind of close to 4 or below 4, that's unusual for chiropractors. It's not normal. And so this guy was on the lower scale, and I into the scale of what I normally see for chiropractors. And so I started reading those reviews. And when I did his practice assessment, which he never did reach out to me after that, because I think he was probably upset with what I said. I told him, I said, before you pay to have someone get you more reviews, what I would encourage you to do is look at what these people are saying and ask the question, are there things that we're doing wrong that we could do better? Like, is there some truth in this? Or is this just somebody being malicious? Because there are chiropractors that I've met before that every time someone leaves a negative review, there's a reason for it. Like there's, oh, it's this and oh, it's that. And they're crazy and they're this and they hate me and they're just a mean person and they're just bullying me and blah, blah, blah. There's an excuse for all of it. And they never can look at themselves and be like, I messed up. Maybe I could do better. Maybe I could have communicated that better. Maybe there was a mistake on our part. Maybe I need to talk to the staff. Maybe I need to clean up how I'm doing that because it seems to be there's a miscommunication or it's rubbing people the wrong way. And when I'm reading this guy's stuff, I'm seeing a pattern of complaint. And that's why I talked to him about it. Because I'm like, these weren't just random things. There was a pattern here of people saying similar things. And I'm like, listen, you can pay me to reach out to more people and get you more reviews, but my service is not designed to get you more positive reviews. It's designed to get you more reviews. And if you're doing a good job, you're going to get more positive reviews. If you're making people upset on a regular basis, it's going to get you more negative reviews. Because all I'm doing is reaching out for feedback. I'm not reaching out and saying like, oh, if you've had a good experience, leave us a review. That's not what you're supposed to do when you're reaching out to people asking for reviews. You're supposed to say, hey, give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And if you didn't have your finest moment, and there are times where we do not have our finest moment. I mean, I had a guy that he wanted me to do a website for him, and he told me that he showed me a website that I did for somebody else. He's like, this is exactly what I want you to do. Like, I love this. I want you to do this for me. No problem. So I created a very similar look, very similar feel, had his content in there, whatever, gave him sent him the website. Oh, no. That's not what I wanted. And then he starts telling me all this stuff he wants to change. All right. So I change a bunch of stuff, send it back to him. Take a look at this. No, that's not what I wanted. And then he's starting to talk down to me like I'm an idiot. And I'm like, you said this is what you want. I made that for you. And now you're telling me something different. And every time I reach out to you, you're telling me something different. And so finally I was talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, this isn't going to be a good fit. This just isn't. This is not a good fit. He'd already paid me for the first month, which is more expensive than the rest of the months because I got to do setup and all this stuff. And I finally just was like, hey man, I think we just need to be done. I think you just need to go in a different direction. This isn't working out. Obviously there's a disconnect between what we're doing here, whatever. And then he made some comments about me that I did not appreciate. And my response to that was basically, all right, I'm done. I'll refund your money. And then I probably called him an asshole before I actually hung up the phone, or it might have been right after. I was planning on saying it after I hung up the phone to myself in the privacy of my own home, but I don't know that my timing was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Now, I'll still argue that he was an asshole. Like I refunded his money. He's a jerk. I would never work with him. He's a moron. But it wasn't my finest moment. Did I handle it like I should have? No. I shouldn't call people names. Not my finest moment. And I can admit that. And I haven't done it since. I have not called any of my clients names, at least not to their face or on the phone. I don't do it anyway. I usually really like my clients, and so that's it. The idea is this, is if there's something in your life that's really stressing you out, it's repeatedly stressing you out, and it has to do with other people, meaning it's something that they're doing that's really stressing you out. I want to just take this time to tell you, look at yourself, look at the situation, and ask yourself, is this really my burden to bear? Is this really my problem? Own your part. Whatever the thing is that you're responsible for, do that. Wherever you can get better, get better. I'm all for that. I'm not for you making your life harder than it has to be, because you are constantly trying to force situations to happen that are beyond your control. And there's a lot of things that are like that. So don't make your life harder than it has to be. That's the lesson of the day. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. If you have suggestions for the podcast, you can email me through the website. You can reach out to me through social media, Instagram or Facebook, either one. I'll get those. I'm open to suggestions, and we'll go from there. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.